Welcome to episode 29 of your CYSA Plus Prepcast. In today's episode, we explore two highly critical domains that every cybersecurity analyst must master: social engineering and obfuscation detection. Social engineering leverages human psychology to bypass technical controls, while obfuscation allows attackers to hide their intentions, commands, or malware from traditional security solutions. Together, these two techniques form the cornerstone of many modern attacks. Cybersecurity analysts who understand the nuances of both are significantly better prepared to detect, prevent, and respond to even the most sophisticated threats. These concepts are deeply embedded within real-world scenarios and heavily tested on the CYSA Plus exam, making this episode essential for both certification and job performance. Let's begin with social engineering. Social engineering refers to the exploitation of human behavior to gain unauthorized access to systems, data, or resources. Unlike brute force or exploit-based attacks that target technical weaknesses, social engineering attacks exploit emotional responses, trust, and procedural flaws. Analysts must recognize that many successful breaches begin not with a vulnerability scan, but with a carefully crafted message designed to manipulate a human into bypassing security policies. Understanding the psychology behind these attacks enables analysts to recognize the signs early and guide the organization toward better prevention and detection strategies. Phishing is the most widespread form of social engineering. Attackers send emails that appear legitimate but contain malicious attachments, links, or requests. These messages might spoof a trusted sender or mimic a legitimate organization, tricking users into clicking or responding. Analysts monitor email security systems, analyze headers, flag messages with spoofed domains, and investigate payloads. Common red flags include urgent language, generic greetings, and mismatched URLs. On the CYSA Plus exam, you may be asked to identify phishing attempts from sample emails or explain the appropriate response steps after a user clicks a malicious link. Spear phishing takes this a step further. These messages are highly personalized and target specific individuals, often those with access to sensitive systems. The attacker might reference company projects, include the recipient's name and title, or pose as a high-level executive. Because spear phishing emails bypass many spam filters due to their specificity, analysts must rely on behavioral indicators, anomaly detection, and user reports. CYSA Plus questions may require you to differentiate between generic phishing and spear phishing, or recognize how personalization increases the success rate of an attack. Vishing and smishing are voice and SMS-based phishing attacks. In a vishing attempt, the attacker calls the target, pretending to be a trusted entity like IT support or a bank. In smishing, the attacker sends a fraudulent text message that includes malicious links or requests for credentials. Analysts monitor phone usage logs, track incident reports, and coordinate with user awareness teams to respond to these threats. Indicators may include unusual call patterns, repeated messages from unfamiliar numbers, or user reports of phone-based scams. Expect questions on the exam that involve identifying these forms of social engineering and implementing appropriate countermeasures. Pretexting is another powerful technique. Here, attackers construct detailed narratives to convince a target to divulge information or perform actions. A typical pretext might involve posing as an auditor, needing access to records, or pretending to be a senior executive requesting sensitive files. Analysts detect pretexting by monitoring for access requests that do not align with business needs, checking against internal policies, and evaluating whether requests match the identity and role of the requester. The exam may test your ability to identify pretexting scenarios or recommend steps for user verification when handling unusual requests. Baiting exploits human curiosity or greed. An attacker might leave a USB drive labeled payroll records in a common area or offer free downloads online. Once inserted or executed, the payload installs malware or opens a back door. Analysts must educate users on not connecting unknown devices and configure endpoint protection to block auto-run scripts or alert on new media insertions. You might be asked on the exam how to mitigate baiting threats or what policies should be implemented to prevent unauthorized USB use. Physical social engineering attacks like tailgating and piggybacking also pose risks. In tailgating, an unauthorized person follows an employee into a secure area. In piggybacking, the employee knowingly allows someone to enter without proper authentication. Analysts work with physical security teams to deploy badge readers, install surveillance systems, and implement training programs that encourage challenging, unfamiliar individuals. While the CYSA Plus exam focuses on technical skills, questions may ask you how to incorporate physical security into cybersecurity awareness and incident response. User awareness is the most effective defense against social engineering. Analysts must implement regular training programs, conduct simulated phishing tests, and ensure users know how to report suspicious activity. Clear escalation paths must be established so incidents are not dismissed or ignored. Simulations should reflect real-world attack styles, training users to spot red flags and respond appropriately. The exam may include scenarios where awareness training helped detect an attack or ask you to design a training initiative to reduce phishing success rates. Behavioral analytics also play a role. By establishing a baseline for normal user activity, analysts can detect deviations such as accessing sensitive data outside work hours or logging in from unusual locations. These deviations, when correlated with phishing attempts or password reset requests, can reveal successful social engineering attacks. Analysts must configure alerts, validate findings, and initiate investigations when thresholds are breached. On the exam, expect to interpret behavioral analytics outputs and determine whether they suggest compromise through social engineering. Responding to social engineering incidents requires immediate action. Analysts must isolate compromised accounts, reset credentials, investigate logs for unauthorized access, and determine whether any data was exfiltrated. In cases of successful pretexting or credential theft, other systems may also be at risk. Incident reports must include timelines, affected users, and recommended process changes. The CYSA Plus exam may include case studies where you must respond to a social engineering attack in progress or after discovery. For more cyber-related content and books, please check out cyberauthor.me. Also, there are more security courses on cybersecurity and more at baremetalcyber.com. Now that we've explored the human side of cyber attacks through phishing, pretexting, baiting, and related social engineering techniques, let's shift focus to a more technical dimension, obfuscation detection. Obfuscation is the art of hiding malicious intent in code, communication, or behavior so that it can bypass detection mechanisms. It's a critical tactic used by attackers to ensure that their malware, payloads, or infrastructure go unnoticed by automated tools and even experienced analysts. Understanding how to detect and respond to obfuscated threats is a core skill tested on the CYSA Plus exam and an essential part of any cybersecurity analyst's daily responsibilities. Obfuscation can take many forms, but its primary goal is to delay or avoid detection. One common method is the use of obfuscated or shortened URLs. These links often appear in phishing emails or malicious websites and mask the true destination to trick users or bypass URL filters. Analysts use tools like URL unshorteners, passive DNS databases, and sandbox environments to analyze these links safely. Indicators include unusually long or randomized paths, misspelled domain names, and links that redirect multiple times before landing on a final page. On the exam, you may be asked to evaluate a URL and determine whether it poses a security risk based on its structure. Malware obfuscation is another major category. This involves disguising executable code so that traditional antivirus engines or signature-based tools cannot recognize it. Techniques include packing, encryption, or polymorphism, where malware re-encodes itself upon each infection. Analysts use sandbox analysis, reverse engineering, and behavioral heuristics to detect these obfuscated payloads. Rather than relying on file signatures, they observe what the program does, such as creating network sockets, modifying registry keys, or executing from unexpected directories. The CYSA Plus exam may present scenarios involving packed or encrypted files and ask how to proceed with analysis or detection. Encoding schemes like base64 or hexadecimal are often used to conceal payloads, commands, or entire scripts. Attackers may embed encoded data in PowerShell scripts, HTML pages, or within image metadata. Analysts must be able to decode these patterns manually or with automated tools to understand the underlying behavior. For example, a script that appears harmless may contain base64 strings that decode to a malicious command. In CYSA Plus questions, you might be shown encoded data and asked to identify its purpose or recognize the technique used to hide its true function. Command obfuscation within shell scripts, batch files, or PowerShell commands is another technique analysts must recognize. Attackers use tricks such as excessive overuse of words, string concatenation, character escaping, or encoded parameters to disguise harmful commands. For example, a command might use backticks or caret symbols to hide its execution path or to reconstruct malicious code at runtime. Analysts detect these behaviors by analyzing execution patterns, reviewing command histories, and using security tools that apply behavioral heuristics. You may encounter exam scenarios that display partially obfuscated commands and require you to determine their intended actions. Steganography is a more advanced and stealthy form of obfuscation, where attackers hide malicious code or data within seemingly benign files such as images, audio clips, or PDFs. This technique makes it extremely difficult to detect threats with traditional scanning tools. Analysts detect steganography by analyzing file metadata, checking for size anomalies, or using tools that extract and analyze hidden data within file structures. For example, an image file that is unusually large or displays altered compression characteristics may contain hidden payloads. CYSA Plus questions may test your understanding of how steganographic techniques work and what tools analysts use to reveal concealed content. DNS tunneling is another covert technique attackers use to exfiltrate data or establish command and control channels. Because DNS is rarely blocked or monitored in depth, it becomes a convenient protocol for hiding malicious traffic. In DNS tunneling, data is encoded into DNS requests and responses. Analysts detect this by observing patterns, such as frequent DNS lookups for nonsensical or algorithmically generated domain names, consistent query sizes, or repeated DNS requests from a single host. Tools that monitor DNS traffic for anomalies are essential for identifying tunneling behavior. Expect the exam to include DNS traffic samples or alerts that require analysis for covert channels. Obfuscation at the network level often involves encryption, VPNs, or anonymizing tools like Tor. While encryption is a normal part of secure communication, attackers use it to hide the contents of malicious traffic. VPNs or Tor connections originating from unexpected systems may signal data exfiltration, anonymized command and control sessions, or efforts to bypass monitoring channels. Description using SSL/TLS inspection and contextual threat intelligence integration helps analysts make sense of these encrypted communications. CYSA Plus scenarios may ask how to detect encrypted traffic that is hiding malicious behavior. To keep up with evolving obfuscation techniques, analysts must regularly update their detection rules, threat intelligence feeds, and monitoring configurations. Attackers continuously innovate, using new methods to encode, disguise, or split their payloads across multiple vectors. Analysts use machine learning models and behavioral heuristics to identify subtle deviations from normal behavior. The regular tuning of SIM rules, IDS signatures, and endpoint detection logic ensures detection systems remain relevant and effective. On the exam, you may be tested on how to adapt your monitoring to handle new forms of obfuscation or improve your detection strategy in response to evasion techniques. Threat hunting is a proactive activity where analysts search for obfuscated threats that have slipped past initial defenses. This involves reviewing log data, decoding suspect entries, and manually inspecting suspicious files or scripts. Analysts focus on indicators like encoded content, uncommon process behavior, and communications to unknown external domains. Successful threat hunting leads to earlier detection, reduced dwell time, and stronger defenses. The CYSA Plus exam may include hunt-based questions, where you analyze obfuscated scripts or artifacts and recommend next steps. Lastly, documentation and reporting play a critical role in obfuscation detection. Analysts must clearly document findings related to encoded payloads, hidden communications, and attacker behavior. This includes decoding evidence, capturing screenshots, detailing detection timelines, and providing recommendations for control improvements. These reports support incident response, forensic analysis, and future detection enhancements. On the exam, you may be asked what should be included in a report on an obfuscated malware incident, or how to structure a post-incident analysis for regulatory compliance. To summarize, understanding and detecting obfuscation techniques is as vital as defending against direct attacks. While social engineering exploits the human element, obfuscation targets the blind spots in automated defenses. A skilled analyst must be equipped to uncover these hidden threats through a mix of behavioral analysis, threat intelligence, decoding tools, and experience. Mastering these skills not only helps you pass the CYSA Plus exam, but positions you as a more proactive and capable defender in your organization. Keep sharpening your detection tactics, studying obfuscation patterns, and staying updated on the latest threat actor techniques to stay ahead of concealed threats. Thanks for listening. To learn more about cybersecurity, please visit baremetalcyber.com. There you will find best-selling books, videos, and even more free cybersecurity training courses. Please subscribe to the Prepcast and our various podcasts. And thanks for listening.